So welcome back to DIY Willy. Today we're going to look at the Frontier. I had a few people comment on the videos saying they hear the whine of the timing chain tensioners on the secondary chains, the camshaft chains. And honestly, I don't hear it, but I may not be attuned to what I'm listening to, you know. I don't hear a lot of high-pitched sounds. I did take it to Nissan and have them do a little inspection on it, and as usual, you know, they can't duplicate the problem. So I mean, it's expensive. The parts are not cheap. I think we paid close to $1,000 for all the parts, and you know, I'll do the work myself. That's the true DIY, right? I'm DIY Willy, so I'll do the work myself. And even though I don't really have time right now, but I'm gonna break into it. And I only have a few hours a day to work. I work every day basically, and I have a few hours every day in the mornings before I go to work to work on my projects. So this may take 2 or 3 days to get in there and get it done. I don't know, might take more, might take less. But we're gonna get in there, we're gonna do it. A lot of stuff I have to take off. You know, you got to drain the radiator, you got to drain the oil, take apart just about everything. The spark plug has got to come out. I was reading some stuff online, even says remove the cam sensors to do this. So there's a lot involved. Nissan recommended a few things when they did their inspection on it, like the heater hoses, and they're right. When I look at them, there's coolant seeping around the edges of the hoses and the hard lines that they have. So yeah, I can see that needing replaced. So within that 900 bucks I said I spent on parts did include the heater hoses, all the gaskets and little O-rings. I've already replaced the plenum gaskets. I'm not going to do that again, even though I do take the plenum off in this one. The drive belt, I got a new drive belt, the serpentine. I'll take that off. I'm just going to replace it with a new one when I go to put it back on. I will inspect the tensioner to make sure the tensioner is still good, and all the accessories come off. The cooling hoses come off. I mean, it's involved. It's an involved job to do. I may not record everything, but I'll try to touch on the key points of when I'm doing this. You know, I don't try to make how-to videos, but I am making a video showing the work I do to my vehicles and what I go through to get the job done. So if anybody can use any of that information to help them with one of their projects, hey, that's great. If you have questions to ask about what I did at a specific point during the work or the job, you know, ask that question and I'll do my best to answer what I did to solve that problem or whatever it is. I did buy a book for reference so I can have specific torque specs and torque sequences, things like that. I want to have that book as that reference. Yeah, what else can I say? It's a big job, and we're gonna get in it. We're gonna do it. I got all new chains, new tensioners, new water pump, because the timing, the big chain, the main chain from the crankshaft to the camshaft, it also drives the water pump. So while I'm there, might as well replace the water pump. It came with new gaskets. A lot of these have O-rings, and then they use silicone around the edges to help seal. So like the timing covers, and for like the main cover, and the hardware for these are specific. You know, they go to specific locations, so it's a good idea to mark the hardware where it came from. I saw one video online, one of the guys, man, I can't remember the site or the channel, but he actually made a cardboard template, and he had each bolt marked on the template and put the bolt back in that corresponding spot on the template so he could keep where the bolt went in the cover. I think that's a great idea. So I'll probably do the same. And I'm stalling. I don't want to get going. This is going to be a big job. And I've only got about an hour and a half I can work today, so I want to get as much off of the top of the engine as I can and get going. Okay, so let's get going. Let's get diving in and get to work. Here we go again with the truck that's lifted, I'll be reaching over. Nice to let some air out of the tire so it sits a little lower, but we'll get to that later. All right. Got a few things out of the way. All this stuff that's underneath the cover. Started to just disassemble the wiring harness. Get it all out of the way. Next is to get the intake plenum off. This time we're going to be changing out the valve cover gaskets. We have a small leak down there. I don't know if you can really see it, but there's a small leak, really small. Doesn't really need to worry about right now, but since we're in here this far, we'll go ahead and change the valve cover gaskets. I did buy new valve covers in case there's a problem with the valve cover, but I don't foresee that. I just bought it as a precaution. We'll do both of them the same. And yeah, it's a job, all right. So we're gonna get to the plenum next and get the plenum off. And wow, keep going slowly but surely. And a few parts right here in the bucket. This is the hardware container for storing some of the hardware, the ones that I don't put back in place anyway, like that. And I'll keep going. All right, looking at this now, we've been here before. Oh, a couple extra things extra, disconnecting some of the wiring. Had to remove the plenum. This is what we did to do the spark plugs. We are going to be taking the spark plug out this time to rotate the engine around. Drain the radiator already. Let's take a look at that. Radiator drains from here. This little, I don't know what you call this thing. Anyway, you just loosen this up with a Phillips screwdriver, and the radiator will drain. Have a container nearby ready to take it in. And part of this job also is removing the fan. You see that the fan shroud is 2 pieces, and the fan will bite you, but it will come out the bottom. So it saves you the work of trying to wrestle it out through the top. Now I need to get this fan shroud out. Not exactly sure what's all here. I think it just might be some hoses attached to it somewhere. The top bolts are out already, and well, it's just got little pins on the bottom. So let me see if I can get that out. This wire harness is still attached to it. Let's see if we can get in there. Might have been better to pull the battery. I hate these little speed clips. I mean, I'm sure they're faster during the assembly process, but man, they make taking it apart hard. The hose just unpulls out of the little home. There we go. Oh shit, come out now. You hear me? It should come out now. Oh, another one on the bottom. Good stuff. There we go. The bottom was held in by these pins, and what I did was put a little lubricant on them, spray lubricant, make them easier to slide through the grommets. Yeah, it's been a job. Now next we got to get these coolant hoses off, the lower bottom radiator hose off, and the drive belt, and keep taking things apart. 2 of my studs came out of the fan pulley. I'm gonna have to put them back in with some Loctite so I can put the fan back on. We got a new belt. This belt looks okay, but we're gonna go ahead and change it. And it's a project, all right. Here we go. I'll do some more. So we've got the belt off. As you can see, all you do to take the belt off is stick a 3/8 drive right here and just pull down on this. Move the tensioner down. I've already got it unbolted, so I can't do it, but there's 4 bolts that hold the tensioner in. One on the bottom, 2, 3, and 1 on the top. Take those bolts out. They're long bolts, see? Take those bolts out and the tensioner will come off. one more thing to add to the bucket of parts. All right, I'm gonna get this one too. So while doing this job, I bag and tag everything that I put off. If I can put it back in, I put it back in. Like these, I put those back in. Those I put back in. That one I put back in. But these big ones like this, I'm not gonna put them back in. I can't. So I'm bagging and tagging everything. This is for the belt tensioner. Here's the idler arm pulley, or excuse me, this is the idle pulley, and it's got a little spacer right here on the back side, and that spacer will fall off. So I just put a little piece tape around the bolt right here to keep the spacer and everything together, so I remember and don't lose that spacer. All right, there's more to do. Now I need to get power steering pulley off. I need to get the harmonic balancer pulley off. Then I need to get the bracket off for the power steering and move the power steering out of the way. Take the alternator loose, take it out of the way, take the lower alternator bracket out of the way. And there's bolts behind it too. So it's going to be a job to get in there and get it. Then we got the AC compressor over here to get out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and take the lower radiator hose off. And since I got this disassembled this far, I'm going to replace both of the radiator hoses, both the upper and the lower radiator hose. Maybe this one. This goes to the oil cooler, runs down. I'm going to take that line off. And yeah, I've got this one still to come off too. This is some type of cross tube. Not sure. It's also for the oil cooling. So this is a cooling line too. It goes to the other side of the water-cooled oil cooler. So it's got a hose clamp way down inside there. It's gonna be a booger to get out, but I'll find a way to get it. I'll see if I have to go buy some of those long needle nose, I will. And then it's got a bolt here and a bolt there, and this will take this clamp off, and we'll get it out of the way. Then it's time to get to the valve covers. I gotta free up all this stuff here on the valve covers so I can get those valve covers off. I gotta free up all this, get the coil packs off, get the coil spark plugs out. Now this one's had a lot of oil in the intake, and I think it's coming from the PVC system over there, that hose that you're looking at, I'm pointing at right there. So there's a PCV valve, and it's right back there on the end of the valve cover. I think it's gonna be a good idea to flush the radiator, because that is the coolant. I don't think the coolant's supposed to be black, or at least a dark brown. It should be more of a green or a blue or green, I think, in this car, green. So this is definitely going to get a flush. Oh, it's a good start. It's about time for me to stop again already. I've got to go to work. We still have not put the engine on top dead center, but we'll get it there. In fact, I think the pulley, the tensioner bracket that I just took off actually holds the timing mark. So I may have to put that back on to get the top dead center, which is, there's 3 marks right here, 2 close ones and this one. This is the top dead center mark, and I need to make sure that I'm around to number 1 piston up. This is number 1 right here. Make sure that I'm up around top dead center and on that mark, and that'll be top dead center for the engine. And there's timing marks inside. We'll discuss that later. Definitely a job. I understand why they charge so much. I've got all the belts off. I've got that miserable cooling line that comes out of inside there out. I had to buy me some long needle nose pliers to reach down in there and squeeze the clamp enough to pull the aluminum tube out, the hard tube. And that goes down there to the oil cooler line. The other oil cooler line comes up here and goes to the water pump. Then got the air conditioning compressor unbolted. There's 3 bolts, 1, 2, and 1 in the back. 3 is kind of hard to get to. You got to be careful with that one, because there's another bolt next to it that's actually part of the compressor itself. If you take that bolt out, you're going to be in a world of hurt. So you got to make sure you get on the right bolt on the back. I almost made that mistake, but I caught myself double and triple checking, and I got it. So yeah, the wire harness is pretty much disconnected. There's just a couple things over there in the back that I need to get. Then I'm going to set it over there out of the way. I still have the power steering pump to remove, and remove the bracket. There's a bolt in the back. Not sure how I'm gonna do that. The alternator comes off. Got a couple bolts for the alternator. There's also one in the back that's got to come off. Again, we'll work on that because there's not much room on the back side over here like there is on that side. I still have to time the engine. I haven't timed it yet. I got to put the pulley back on it to have the timing mark. I'm gonna go ahead and take number 1 spark plug out so I can find top dead center, and then we start taking off all the covers. I think this cover here is for the main chain tensioner, and it seems to be leaking, so I'm gonna have to fix that while I have it off. Then get the timing, the VVT timing covers off, and then take the main cover off. I got 2 bolts down in the oil pan that's got to come out, and man, this is a job, but it's fun. I'm enjoying it. I like spending time out here with my vehicles, and getting the work done. It's very satisfying when it's repaired and runs good. It is giving me some battle scars, man. I'm taking some hits. It seems like everything is sharp on this thing, ready to bite you if you're not careful. So yeah, I'll get back to taking stuff off, and I'll talk to you guys in a little bit. So I just wanted to share this. You have to take the power steering bracket off to this one. You have to take the power steering bracket off to get for the timing cover, and well, there's a bolt on it. I don't know if you can see that. Way down inside, follow the extensions on the blue socket. You see that? There's a bolt way in the back, and I could not for the life of me figure out how to get that from the front end. So what I did is I came in with a super extension. Let's see how many. I got a swivel down. I got the blue socket, the swivel, long extension, short extension, long extension, and again a short extension, using every 1/2 inch extension I own to get in there. But and my breaker bar, I had to use the breaker bar. It was too much, too tight, too much torque on it. But now it's loose, and I'll get it out with the ratchet. But I just want to show that that was a monster bolt right there. Yeah, and just think, I got more on the alternator. All right, checking in day 4 of timing chain replacement. I've got all the accessories off. I've got all the bolts out of the timing cover, and I've got the timing cover removed. Few things I want to point out about removing that timing cover. The oil pan has 2 bolts that go into the timing cover. This one here, which is a shorter bolt, and the longer bolt right here on this side by the oil filter. Now this bolt will not come all the way out because the steering rack is here. So when it's up, it'll come down and it's flush or near flush with the oil pan. It does not interfere with the removal of the timing cover. However, what did come into problem were the dowels. There's 2 dowels. Let me show you on the cover. This is the cover, and these are the 2 dowel pins I'm talking about. This one and this one. These are also siliconed, or they're in there pretty tight. They're to align the cover, and that was the hardest part. I had to get my breaker bar tucked in here to pull these dowels out, and then the cover lifted right out. So I've got a lot of cleanup to do. I want to go ahead and clean all of this up. I'm gonna put some rags down blocking the oil pan, because the oil pan is now exposed on the inside. And I'll use some brake clean or carburetor cleaner, and I'll clean everything up and get rid of the oil residue. Wash it down that way and pick it up. It doesn't matter. At the end of this process, we change the oil anyway, so anything that might go into the oil pan, we'll wash out. We'll get it out of there. So yeah, now we're ready to start the removal of the chains. Oh, one more thing to mention. Spike is the bolts. It's recommended that you keep track of what bolts go where. They are different lengths and different sizes. So what I did is I just drew a little diagram of the engine, and I labeled it in the sequence that they get torqued, starting with 1, 2, or excuse me, I'm sorry, 1, 2 and 3 like this, and then all the way around to 25. There's 25 of them, not including the oil pan bolts. So you get that from the manual right here. It shows you that diagram on how to torque the bolts. So you remove the bolts in the reverse order, starting with 25 and ending up at 1 all the way around. So like I said, I just made a cardboard template. Actually, the manual recommends labeling the bolts and marking the bolts, and another YouTuber that I saw did it this way with a piece of cardboard, and it worked out fine. So I just put the tape over like this to hold the bolts in there, because they're not tight. I don't want to lose any. But it's the best way I think of to organize the bolts and put them back exactly where they go. Now they are, some of them need to be cleaned. They got silicone on them, but we can do that. They are different lengths, and but all the same same basic size, just different lengths. Yeah, there are what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 big ones, or 5 big ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 large bolts, 14 millimeter on top. The rest of them were 10 millimeter on top, but it's no problem. They're easy to get out. So here we are, day 6 of changing out the timing chains. I have some issues. We have marks that line up with the other marks in the castings, and I can get them there, you know, everywhere. And the chains have the golden links. I don't know if you can see that. Have the golden links that coincide. Man, I can't even talk today. They have the golden links that are supposed to line up with these lines there, indicating there's also a dot. Those are our timing marks. So on the secondary chains, you have the gold links here, and you have the marks that they're supposed to line up with down there. And it's the same on this one. I've got the gold link here on this mark, and I've got the 2 gold links here, and there's where they should be. So, man, I probably put 10 miles on this engine yesterday, turning it by hand, trying to get all these gold links to line up, and I just couldn't get it. The ones on the secondary chains would not line up. And I know the chain walks as it goes around, and the link moves different locations, because when I first started doing it, I have a mark somewhere. I marked it somewhere on there to show that how much it was moving, and that it would come up in the right place eventually, and it did. But man, there was a lot of turns here to get this to do that, but I still cannot get these links to match up down there. But I think that's okay, because as long as the engine's in time, all the other marks are good. Got the valve cover off, and the lobes are pointed up, both of them, so that tells me that they're closed. The valves are closed, and I had an extension down there showing me that the piston was up at top dead center. Watch, take a look at that. I had this extension in here like this, showing me that the piston was at top dead center. I could watch it go up and down as I rotated the engine, and it's up. So the valve lobes are pointed up, and I've got these marks here, and these gold links are lined up. So I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna take it off and put it back together and see if it'll run. If it doesn't run, well, I don't know, maybe it's LS swap time. We'll see. All right, let me get busy. A little distraction from the Nissan. Good bunny off. I gotta get back to work on the truck. I just wanted to show you guys one thing about the water pump. Now here's the water pump, and to get it out, if it's been in there a while, it's gonna be hard to get out. It's got O-rings on it, and they get pretty tight, and it's also developed some goo on there, which I'll show you in a minute. So it's got 3 bolts. It's got 3 bolts that are in here like this, right? You take the 3 bolts out. Actually, that's wrong. It should be right there. Anyway, I'm reenacting this, by the way. But anyway, it's got 3 bolts, and you can see my O-ring is already out. But it's pretty tight. So I picked up, well, actually my wife did, a harmonic balancer puller. Now this really didn't come in handy for anything. I didn't need it, but what it did have was 8mm by 125 bolts. You can see them C's right there. So I took 2 of them. Let me set you up. I took 2 of these bolts and ran them in like this. Now the water pump is threaded, so it goes in. It didn't thread into the engine block, however. There, just like that. I put 2 of them in, and I tightened them up, and it's out now, so I can do it but with my hand, and you kind of see what it does. And you turn them. Oh, that's the wrong one. And it pulls the pump out. It worked great to pull the pump out. And it didn't thread into the block. I don't understand why, but it just pushed the pump right out. I'll get them out. I'll take a look at the pump. Anyway, it just pulls the pump right out. And of course, there's a bolt somewhere that it says to drain the engine block of the coolant. Well, I didn't find that bolt, so all the coolant went all over the bottom, probably into the oil pan. But I did have some napkins there to kind of keep it from going all the way in. And we're gonna change the oil anyway after this. But here's the pump, and it has got some buildup on it. You can see that hole is probably almost plugged up, so it's a good idea that we're changing it. It's always recommended when you're doing the timing chain work that you change the pump. I mean, it still spins free, and I can see there was quite a bit of buildup in there that could limit the flow. So yeah, that's how I took the pump out. Yeah, there we go, pump's out. I won't be putting the pump back in just yet. I've got some other things I want to do first. There's another process of doing it when you don't have the engine broke down as far as I do, where you just take out the water pump cover and you lock the timing chain, or yeah, the primary chain, you lock it in position, and then you give the engine a 20-degree turn, and I guess that removes the chain from the pump, and you're able to remove the pump and then exchange the pump and then pull the engine back 20 degrees, release the timing chain tensioner, and everything is good. Put the covers back on, and voila, you change your water pump. But since I'm doing the timing chains, it was much easier to do the pump now and not have to worry about timing the engine again. I will anyway, but there's other processes. All right, on to the next. This is the new water pump. It has 2 O-rings, and I believe the first one that goes on is a little bit larger than the last one. It's designated by a white paint mark, and you put that one at the forward end right here. See, the paint mark's coming off because I've been handling it, but it goes here, then the black one, the solid black one, goes there. Now it says put a little bit of dish soap all the way around to help lubricate the O-rings as it slides in. I've already cleaned the engine block, and I've already cleaned this with acetone as per the service manual. Now we'll just put a little bit of dish soap. I'm using Dawn dish soap. We'll put a liberal amount on it, just like we did with the heater hoses that we installed earlier. There we go. We'll give this a shot. Now the holes were also cleaned out where the bolts go, to be sure they're free of silicone or the sealant, because we're going to use a little bit of sealant on the bolts too as well. There, I think that's enough probably. Leave my hands off. and I'll go ahead and stick it in the hole. There we go. All right, so we're getting the water pump bolts tightened. They're 10mm. We'll just get them started with the regular ratchet. And you're supposed to tighten them evenly, quarter turn at a time, until the O-ring goes in. So 3 of them, just rotate them a little at a time until the O-ring seats, and then it torques to 85 inch-pounds. I've already got my torque wrench set up to that. It's not that much. There we go, I've got them started. Go ahead and change my socket over. I've got my torque wrench set up to 85 inch-pounds. You can see that. And I'll just go ahead and torque them up. There's first click. There's that click. And there's that one. I'll just double check them. Yep. Okay, next we're going to take a look at the timing chains. This is the secondary chain that goes on the camshaft. This is the new chain. There's the part number for the chain. There's the old chain. You can see the dark links here, they're gold, but on this chain they're dark right there. So they line up, the 2 gold links line up with the 2 dots. You can see that on the cam gear. And then on this gear also, see if I can do this, they line up with the cam dot there. I need some light here. They line up with the cam dot there on the gold link. There, okay. So this is gonna go back in. It's really hard to explain what lines up. This is the timing mark. This would be the timing mark that lines up on the block. And of course the secondary camshaft has a mark there. So there's the bolts. We're gonna install it finger tight, and hopefully all goes well. Whew. All right, everyone, this is like day 11, I guess, or 12 of the timing chain repair. And yeah, it's there. The chains are on. The bolts are torqued to 76 foot-pounds on all the cam bolts. Timing chain tensioners are all in. Everything's good. I've rotated the engine around, making sure there was no interference or binding or valves hitting pistons or anything, any kind of contact or anything like that. I've already prepped the surface edge for the I don't like that. I've already prepped the surface edge for the new gasket, and all that is silicone. But I do want to put the new thermostat in before I put the cover on. It'd just be easier to do. Let's take a look at that thermostat. Here's the old one. Here's the old one, and you know, there was nothing really wrong with it. It was working, but well, we're here. We might as well change some parts out and make it fresh. Let's take a look at the new one. Let's see that thing. Oh wow, look at that. Wow, that's a beautiful piece. That's like a trophy. That's like a trophy piece, man. Look at that. Beautiful machine work and casting. Nice job, Nissan. In comparison to that one that's what, 11 years old or more? Yeah, this is really nice. So it goes right down here, and it's got a, nope, it doesn't have a gasket. Oh shucks. Okay, well, I gotta get a gasket. Okay, see you in a bit. All right, so I'm gonna put the valve cover on because I'm waiting for this gasket, and I don't want to put everything on until I get that gasket in. I know it can be done with the timing chain cover in place, but right now I can see everything and I just want to do it now. So I'm going to get a gasket here in a little bit to put this on, but I have the valve cover off, and I'm going to be replacing it because it had a leak. So I'm going to do both of them actually. And yeah, so I've already cleaned all the way around. I used acetone to get rid of any of the residue on there, the silicone, and because you got to put a little bit of silicone down in these crevices down here. Right down here, you got to put a little bit of silicone. So on both sides. So I cleaned all that up. Cleaned up where the spark plug tubes come up. And yeah, let's take a look at that new valve cover. Here's the box. New part number there. And see, I've got a razor blade here somewhere. All right. Let's see. Tuck it nice. There we go. Oh, look at that. It's got the new PCV valve in it. Wow. I bought a new one and we were going to install it. I don't like that though. I'm just cleaning away some of the molding process that's still in the way. There we go. There we go. So there's the new PCV valve. That's good because I had bought a new one to replace it because I believe this one was having some trouble. Neighbor's working outside again. There's the seals for the spark plug tubes, and I need to put the gasket in here. Now it's a good idea to use a little bit of silicone every once in a while to help hold the gasket in place. And then when we actually go to install it, we'll lubricate the there's so much noise. When we go to install it, we'll lubricate the spark plug seals with a little bit of oil to help them go on easier. All right, let's check it out. Let's try this part number. See if this one works. Yeah, this one looks better. It is a pretty tight fit in there. It is a pretty tight fit. I mean, it would probably stay in place, but I'm used to putting a little bit of silicone, and I'm gonna go ahead and do that. But I'll do it off camera while I get ready to install it. Okay, so I have the new gasket for the thermostat housing, and I just wanted to look and show you inside. You can see the antifreeze in there. It's green. It's not the black that came out of the radiator. It's a pretty green color. I don't understand why the radiator is black and the engine block is green. It should all be the same. It's all the same fluid. I don't know why one would be different than the other. Okay, so I've got the thermostat housing in. Man, that's a beautiful piece. Look how shiny it is, machine finished. Wonderful. Camshafts are all sort. New valve cover is in. And the VVT actuator is reinstalled with a new gasket. Also, since we had a small leak on the timing chain cover right here at the chain tensioner cover, I went ahead and took it off and cleaned all the silicone away from it, and it just gets re-siliconed on there. I have Nissan silicone, so yeah, you can see it beating around the edges as it squeezed out. So I had a small leak here on this one that was getting on some of the outside parts, but it's all done now, and we're just gonna let it dry. And I think tomorrow, day 12 or day 11, day 12, 13, whatever it is, I'm gonna go ahead and put the front timing cover on so that I don't get dirt and debris into where the chains are any longer. I gotta take the napkins out of the bottom. I put the silicone down there all along in the oil pan, 3/8 bead, and a lot goop it in really good on the corners, because that's where it's going to seal, and then it goes on around this in several spots. We'll show that when we get there. So yeah, it's quite a project. I still have this valve cover to replace, and I'll take off the VVT actuator and the valve cover off, clean it up really good, clean everything with acetone, and then put the new valve cover together with the new seal and install the valve cover, torque it all down to specification. We'll go over that again later. And the VVT actuator, I have a new gasket for that as well, and I'll clean it up a little bit. I cleaned that one up a little bit. We'll clean this one up too. So man, it's coming along. And once I get all the accessories back on, we bought a new alternator too, because it's in a little hole down there. I didn't want to have to worry about trying to change it later on. I mean, it's most likely the original alternator from 2008. I have no way of knowing. So we went ahead and bought a new Nissan alternator, quite pricey. They want money for their parts. I mean, I could have used aftermarket parts, but as difficult as it is to get it out, I just wanted to use good quality parts. So the alternator goes down there on the bottom, and we'll put that in, the power steering pump. We've got the AC pump, and then we can put the tensioners back on, the serpentine belt tensioners once the cover's on. Yeah, it's coming along. Got to install all the wiring back in place for the fuel injector rails. You can see all that right there. I took them all off for ease of access. I've got the cam sensor off on the right side. It said to do it in the book. It said take both of them off actually, but I didn't see why to take them off. I only took one off, and that was basically so I could move the wire harness out of the way to get in to where I wanted to do the heater hoses and whatnot. Hey, but it's coming along. It's coming along. I guess I'll quit jibber jabbering right now, and I gotta go to work anyway, so I'm gonna clean up. All right guys, so I'm gonna have to end the video here. I put the video together with all the bits of footage I had, and I mean, it's almost 2 hours long. It's an hour and I believe 40 minutes. That's just too long. I can't put that kind of video up on YouTube. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and split it in half and release 2 parts. And I'll do the first part, and then I'll do the second part immediately after that, so they'll both be up at the same time and you can watch the whole complete video. It might be a day between them or two while I do the rendering of the second part, but I'll get it all up. And yeah, it's a job, but we got it done, or we're in process of getting it done if you're still watching the video. And well, I'll continue. So thanks for watching, thanks for coming. If you feel so inclined, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and come back for the second part of timing chain install. All right.